Hey, for Tuesday, June 9th, 2020, this is the Pro and the Con Show, and I'm your host, Michael James Ott. Thanks for watching the show. As always, trying to convince people to be better citizens, right? To, take in the pro and the con. That's the name of the show. Pro and the con, good and bad, for and against. And this is something that we are really struggling with as a nation, as a society, as a community. We're not doing a good job listening to each other, and there's all kinds of people that are providing bad examples for us. And it's one thing to do certain things for entertainment value, and so, if you watch a television show or you listen to a radio program or something, and there's this kind of way over the top emotion, these kinds of things happening, well, that can be entertaining. But good government and good coexistence doesn't come from heated debate, escalation of emotion. It comes from understanding and taking the time to appreciate where people are coming from. Now, today's show is called Entitlement. And that word, for many people, means that right away, the context, you might think, well, he's going to talk about entitlement programs like Social Security and stuff, the so-called entitlements. Maybe some people would say healthcare or whatever. Well, I really want to talk about entitlement from the standpoint of relationship, and relationship between you and I, and relationship between you and your neighbors, you and your family, and everyone else. Entitlement. What are you entitled to in a relationship, where, albeit, with your family, your spouse, your children, your coworkers? What are you entitled to? And I believe there's really just one answer. You're entitled to the truth. And that is the information that other people have should be provided to you, and hopefully that person who is providing that information should be entitled to you listening, to at least listening to what they have to say. So this idea of fruitful conversation and exchange of information, this is truly what we are entitled to. Now, beyond that, and I've mentioned multiple times in past shows, for example, one of the reasons why I don't like the institution of marriage as we conceive it, okay, is because part of that conception, part of most people's definition of marriage, is that once you are bound to a spouse, you both are entitled to more than just the truth, to more than a compassionate understanding of how the other person is perceiving things, feeling, so on. Well, no, you're not. You're not entitled. You shouldn't be entitled to anything. A relationship like a marriage, people say, well, you got to work at it. Well, yeah, because relationships are ongoing. And that means that the effort that you put into them needs to be ongoing. And the problem is, with marriage, for example, people, they exchange those vows and they say, for better or for worse, richer or poor or whatever. And, the intent is that you're not going to walk away from somebody instantaneously just because there's a bad day or something. Well, I would offer to you that if you're doing a great job as a couple, as a man and wife, or wife and wife, or husband and husband, If you're doing a great job as a couple, talking through things, telling each other, this is the information, this is the truth, the pro and the con, the good, the bad, the for and against. This is what I like, this is what I dislike. I'm hearing you, I'm listening. What do you like? What do you dislike? What's good, bad, pro and con, good, for and against. If you're taking that effort to compassionately listen to each other and communicate, your relationship is going to be so strongly founded that you don't have to worry about someone walking away because they're in the relationship. Now, this is the thing about relationships. If one side or the other stops working at it, and then there are other times where one side or the other, falters beyond the capability of the partner in the relationship to continue. It's beyond kind of the parameters that they were originally seeing. And then what happens? Well, the relationship breaks. But it's not because of distrust. It's not because of cheating or anything like that. It's because, over the course of time, talking through pro and con, good and bad, for and against, they come apart. Now, this is the same thing that we should demand of our family members and our neighbors and friends. And we should demand it of the people that fulfill those roles. I talk about many times how strong the actual structure of government is. We should demand the one thing that we are entitled to from our government, from the people in those places of authority that we've granted them temporarily through election or by appointment. The one thing that we should demand from them is the truth, okay? The pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against. And unfortunately, what we have done, what we've allowed to happen, you and I have allowed this, all of us have allowed this, is we've allowed people that are in this structure of government to stop talking about the pro and the con and only offer their viewpoint and supporting information of their viewpoint. And it's gotten to the place where, they used to, for a long time in politics, people would, promote some idea of theirs, and they would, of course, bias the information, bias the way they present it, so that they would get what they want. That was, they're arguing for their cause, arguing for a direction, whatever. And if other people would bring up something, they would say, well, yeah, that's true, but blah, 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 and they would try to dismiss it, but there was never this just wholesale disregard for opposing views, and not only just disregard, but just outright over the top, I don't know what you call it. It's horrible, whatever it's devolved to. This over-the-top, naming and blaming and shaming and stuff that goes on, and there is no capacity, and it's every time there's this little inkling of one of our people in our structure of government that actually acknowledges that the other side exists. This is actually big news these days, because somebody's actually acknowledging that there are pros and cons, good and bad, for and against. And you and I are allowing this to happen. We are allowing the people that we vote for, when we're sitting there in a town hall talking to them or whatever, we need to be much more forthright with the people that we talk about putting into our structure of government about what our expectations are. And those expectations being that you, as our appointee or as our elected official that's going into the structure of government, we need all the information, both sides of the argument, And we need you to be providing that information fairly and openly, instead of hiding it or shaming aspects of it that you don't necessarily either believe in yourself or that don't support the direction that you want to go. This is a requirement that we should have on these people. And right now, what's helped all this get away from us, and yes, I'm here we go, citizen statesman again. So what's gotten us to this place, or certainly assisted in that, is the two-party system, which again you and I have allowed to exist, have promoted and supported for decades and decades now. And step by step, those two parties have fairly effectively divided us using these shaming and naming techniques and whatnot. They've pushed our hot buttons and try to set emotion so that they prevent us from talking to each other, and then we end up with exactly what we have, this area here talking about whatever the issue is and only presenting it in a certain way, and totally shaming and blaming and it's just horrific. And you know this. And I know that you are angry. I know that you are frustrated, and I know that this bothers you extensively. And so much so that I don't know how many people now have checked out. They're just not participating anymore in our government and how to, try to get good people into it. They've stopped. They've given up. We can't do that. We can't do that, because if you give away that authority of the individual to stay engaged and work with neighbors, friends, and colleagues and other people in the community, to hold each other accountable, and especially to hold the people that we're placing in these positions in our government accountable, you have to do it. We have to do it if you have any expectation at all that we're going to have good government of the people, by the people, and then and only then for the people. So that's my discussion about entitlement, that word entitlement. And, again, we're entitled to the truth. The truth is complex, and it always has significant elements in the pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against. All right, so let's be better citizens. Please, I'm begging you, please join me in being better citizens, getting involved and ferreting out the truth, the pro and the con, the good and the bad, the for and against, and having that expectation for the people that are in this structure of government, all right? All right, so for Tuesday, June 9th, 2020, I'm Michael James Ott. This has been the Pro and Con Show. Until the next show, bye for now.